It's my pleasure to be here to deliver the 6th Annual State of Profession for the National Association for Court Management. For those of you not familiar with the State of the Profession, this is an opportunity for the entire association to hear from typically the president, who reflects upon a lot of the challenges and the successes that our industry, the judicial branch, and our association has gone through over the last year, to recognize all the achievements we've made and just talk about where we're going in the future. It's important to celebrate all these successes and all these achievements. We work in an industry that is full of challenges and tough hills to climb, but we do it every day. We continue to return to our offices to make sure that we take those challenges head on, and I'm proud to be part of that system. I truly believe that NACOM exemplifies the saying that the whole is greater than the sum, because the talents and the skills and the ideas that every member in this room contributes to our profession makes it special and helps us to continually move forward. NACOM in itself is not about one member, it's about all of us together. Typically, the State of the Profession is someone up here who reflects for the next 20 minutes or so about, again, NACOM and the profession. But I'm gonna do something very different this year. I know that I haven't gotten to where I am in my profession, and I know I haven't gotten to where I am in my place with NACOM without the help and the support of all my colleagues and my friends and all my partners in the industry. And I want them to help me deliver the State of Profession this year. So first, the topic I want to cover is partnerships. The partnerships that NACOM's developed with other organizations such as the State Justice Institute, the National Council of Family and Juvenile Court Judges, the National Center for State Courts, it broadens our contributions to the field of court management and judicial administration. It's been a personal passion and a privilege of mine to work with all of these organizations over the last year and the last several years. At this time, it's my honor to introduce some great partners I've worked with over the last year. So at this time, let's hear from Joey, Jonathan, and Jesse about why partnerships are important in our field and why it's important to partner with NACOM.
You have to be able to work with other branches of government and other elected officials, and I think that speaks to our work in the nonprofit space as well. It is really important that we bring in community members that can help enhance the judicial process, that we can learn from, and also incorporate their voices in how we serve the public to help people better understand the court system. I often say come behind the closed doors of the court system so that they can understand what happens inside, how we can better deliver services. You know, COVID really propelled us into modernization in our courts, and I think through judicial administration and partnerships, we can learn from all those experiences and incorporate good business practices into our court systems to enhance the services that we provide.
It's really important for us to have this partnership with NACOM for so many years, because NACOM reaches an audience that's incredibly important to SJI, and that's the court management audience, plus just the size of your organization. The association is important as well. SJI partnership with NACOM has enabled us to promote our priority investment areas for grant funding and share some of those innovative grant projects that I mentioned before, but to share those on a national stage through the NACOM sessions during the conferences. And so we've been very pleased with NACOM's use of grant funding to support education and special projects that have really benefited all court managers.
Well, our relationship with NACOM is critical. I mean, all you have to do is to look at the history of the two groups and how intertwined that history is. Obviously, NCSC provides the home base for NACOM through providing association management services and conference planning services, board and committee support functions, and so on. But the relationship goes beyond those sorts of org chart intersections. When we sit down at NCSC to chart out a big new initiative, one of the first questions we ask is, how are we going to plug in NACOM? So together, NCSC and NACOM work every day to improve access to justice, to make sure that NACM members are able to take full advantage of all of the resources that NCSC has available. It's just really a cornerstone partnership for NCSC.
Secondly, this year we've seen attacks on our judiciary. We've seen attacks on judicial officers all across this country. We've also seen attacks on court information databases and our network infrastructures. The security of our courts, our courthouses, our judicial officers, and our personnel continues to be a major area of concern, as well as new areas that are coming to light, like technical security. We've all heard stories about breaches in court security in all of our courthouses, some very close and some very personal. And it should make us all be very diligent and passionate to do more work in this area. My colleagues Hector and Aaron will share their primary challenges that courts should be thinking about to successfully secure our courts and our courthouses and their processes.
The third branch should function in a manner, as I said, free from violence, threats, and intimidation. It's a pillar founded with anyone, regardless of race, creed, color, religious background, wealth, socioeconomic status, should have an opportunity to address their grievances in an open and safe courthouse. I think we can all agree that judges, court employees, and the public, inclusive of those that are required to appear voluntarily, have an expectation to be free from violence and threat. This collectively, for example, funding authorities such as commissioners, court, city council, legislatures, law enforcement, court and court staff fail to meet that fundamental burden of securing our courthouses and courtrooms, and then clearly we shouldn't expect the public to have some trepidation to participate essentially in this 230-year plus practice called, or experiment called, the administration of justice.
As what some call the third branch of government, we serve a unique role in the balance of powers in how our democracy works. I think the judiciary needs to be safe. As public servants, we're all used to being treated poorly sometimes, especially when people are upset. We've all experienced that in our courthouses. I think for people coming to the court, many of them are upset and do not want to be there, haven't chosen to be there. Their cases can be highly personal to them. It can involve child protection and many different really sensitive and personal topics. I've found that threats on public servants have become increasingly violent and intense in the last year or so. It just seems that people are more emboldened to speak their mind openly. And it's just making the job of being a public servant even more difficult for those of us working in the courts.
Third, and this might be one of the most important things I talk about today. When I first joined NACM, I ran into an Asian woman in Scottsdale, Arizona, one of my first annual conferences. Her name is Winnie Weber. She remembers me, we talked about it this morning, and she had a great impact on me. And what she told me, I remember to this day. She said, "Welcome to NACM. Learn all you can, but you'll probably not see one person that looks like you." And she was right then. But fortunately for both she and I, and for a lot of other people, things have changed. As a gay, Asian married man, I have charted new waters that probably never would have been possible many years ago, if not for the support of my friends, my colleagues, and this organization. There's been a lot to be said about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the private industry, the public industry, and beyond that. But it's one thing to talk about it, and it's another thing to do something about it. So standing here in the great state of Florida, where these principles have been challenged on a daily basis in the last several months, I am proud to say that NACM has stayed the course, and we've produced a guide that pursues the ideals, the dreams, and the promises of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is, and what it really means. I've been personally challenged this year to evaluate my own biases, and I challenge you yourselves to make it a mission to challenge your own biases in everything that you do in your courthouses. NACM will remain committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a central principle of our organization. It's a strong pillar of our organization. We'll continue to support all the local and the regional and national efforts in this area. We have to remember, DEI is a journey. It's not a destination. At this time, my friends Roger and Edmund will express why this is important in our field, and I encourage you to listen to their call of action.
The field of DEI is expanding, and it's a framework of educational materials and resources that help us identify our biases and those barriers that impact individuals and communities that come before us. And I feel that by acknowledging our biases and recognizing that individuals who come before us are impacted by these biases, that we learn empathy. And empathy is one of those factors in providing better customer service.
I believe that it's important because it goes to the heart of public trust and confidence. Oftentimes when we talk about public trust and confidence, we frame it around the experiences of the end user, the very people who are required for one reason or another to utilize our judicial systems. But it's also important to me in the field of judicial administration because we, being those of us that work in our judicial systems, are quite frankly a reflection of the very communities that we serve. And so having the connection with the people that we serve in our communities and the understanding and awareness of both the differences and the similarities that we all share is very important and should be further explored throughout judicial administration.
As court professionals, I hope that all of you possess the passion to help people go through their process in our courthouses with passion and dignity and respect, and allow them the opportunity to be heard. And although the court system is not known for being timely, nor is it known for being efficient, we all know that during the pandemic, access to justice increased by leaps and bounds. We rushed to keep our courthouses running and to maintain access to the rights and the processes that everyone who is afforded to who enters our courthouses. As professionals in this industry, we should make sure that we continue to maintain those standards and expand upon the accomplishments we've made. To that end, I've asked my friends Jeff, Renee, and Kevin to tell us why it must be a priority to keep that in our profession.
Citizens facing legal issues really don't know the process. They are looking for a timely and affordable access to assistance. They need to get a fair outcome with their issue, and they can walk away believing that they were treated fairly. We in the judiciary are not known for speed. However, the last several years, we were forced out of our comfort zone and forced to expedite the process to access through virtual, online pleadings, remote hearings, etc. We did learn that we can implement and adapt versus test.
Access to justice is the thing that secures the fundamental right of allowing people to meaningfully engage with their legal issues that arise in the justice system. And I say meaningfully very deliberately. I mean that folks are able to decide the path of their legal issue, to decide if their legal issue should even enter the court system or if there are other paths to resolution. And then when it does enter the court system, be empowered to make decisions about how this this legal issue will proceed through the justice system. And access to justice is this umbrella concept that is really about empowering court users to use the court system in the way that makes the most sense for their issue, and also then creates efficiencies for the court system on the whole and for our court manager colleagues.
This is on a personal level because when I started my legal career, as some folks in NACM are aware, I started it on the other side of the law as a juvenile delinquent. And I came through a system that was broken. It was harsh. It was hurtful in a lot of different ways. And I always knew that there had to be a better way to create justice in different communities. So for me, working with kids, working with families, working with whatever case types are coming through our courts, trying to ensure that people are provided with respect and with the dignity that they deserve coming through the court system, and that they have access to whatever those resources are that they need to address the legal problems they're dealing with are really important. And as I said earlier, this whole area is just a basic principle to the rule of law. That's really what we want to have in our society. It's foundational for opportunity. It's foundational for equity. And as a charter member of NACM, I've always been impressed by the efforts NACM has made to ensure education is getting out to court leaders around the country, whether it's through the NACM Core, or whether it's through our conferences, or whether it's through webinars or publications or whatever. Historically, there's been some focus on access to justice ever since NACM was created.
And finally, the justice system as a whole is impacted by the public trust and confidence in our system. Access to justice is not just one pillar of building a trust in our courts, but it is the pillar of building trust in our courts. And it's been seriously eroded in recent years. Sometimes our differences and sometimes our challenges get in the way of building the confidence that is required for us to serve all the constituents the way they should be served. So we have to stand on our foundations to meet those challenges and stay committed to those principles. To wrap this up, my friends, colleagues, Janet, TJ, and Stacy will talk about the importance of clinging to this commitment as we move forward in this profession.
Advancements related to public trust and confidence relate to working on access to justice, access to courts, access to court information. And this is played out through things like self-help centers and providing explanations and understandability, the steps to be expected, and attention to case flow processes and the use of court performance measures to talk about what courts do and the outcomes. Those do relate to progress on public trust and confidence.
I know we all look back to sort of our core competencies and know that public trust and confidence is one of the core, tenets of what we do in the court system. And for me and in my experience, it's been, what the public sees us as. The public needs to see us as a separate and distinct branch of government. And as part of that, needs to understand and feel that what they're doing and the things that happen in these halls of justice behind us are something that have meaning and impact. And, we have to be supportive of that. And if we erode the public trust and confidence in our courts, our decisions won't be followed. We won't get the funding and support that we need, and the rule of law will be deteriorated.
I think the future, to be quite honest, it looks challenging. We have a lot of things going on in the pot that we didn't have before. We have a lot of differences in foundations, differences in ideas. We have quite a large bit of the population that is hurting. We've come out of a pandemic, we've come out of social change and revolution, but the fact of the matter is that we do have a continuity. We do have a commitment to change. We do have a commitment to the public and wanting to support the public, wanting to let people know that we are here, to serve. And I think that that puts us in a unique position, because something is challenging doesn't mean that it can't be great. Because something is challenging doesn't mean that it's not something worth fighting for and fighting through. And I think that in the field overall, we have a tenacity as a group. We have a commitment to professionalism. We have a commitment to standing on the foundations, of fairness and justice, standing on the foundations of the people that allowed us to be able to sit in the positions we're sitting in now. So even though it's challenging, I think that we have a bright future ahead as long as we stay committed to that goal and stay in unity and continue to focus on that goal and continue to serve.
I want to thank each of my friends and my colleagues for contributing their time, their knowledge, and their expertise to this year's address, and helping me to represent the talent that exists in NACM and throughout this country. I hope you recognize many of those faces. Most of those faces are in this room. You'll see those faces over and over again because they're committed to NACM and everything we do in the branch of judicial administration. We did it together this year by focusing on these top priorities: partnerships, safety, security, and privacy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, access to justice, and public trust and confidence. I hope you can see, as I have, all the amazing work that we've done together this past year. I hope that you leave this year's conference inspired and ready to help each other tackle whatever comes your way. I'm thrilled about the membership. I'm thrilled about the board and all the work that the committees have done to step up and meet the challenges in these areas. And while we haven't solved all the problems, we've made a lot of progress, and for that, I'm thankful. Thank you.